I've done these videos in the past, but what if I told you everything changes with Tekken 8? It's been about a week or some change, and some of you still wondering what is the best and worst controller for Tekken 8 to play for this game. The big difference here is that Tekken is a 3D game, so some functions and some things to do may feel different compared to playing a 2D fighting game, in my honest opinion. And hey, at the end of the day, whatever controller you use could be your preference. I'm not here to tell you that those controllers won't work while playing this game. Hell no. There's players that's won in Guilty Gear with a steering wheel, and there's people that won with a Guitar Hero in tournament. Anybody controller can be anyone's preference. So I'm here to do a little quick mock-up, little review on all the controller options that would be the best for Tekken 8. I also decided to take this video to the next step than I've ever have in the past. Essentially, I tested out all these controller options, and I can tell you from a Tekken beginner, I guess okay player experience on how I feel about what is easy to do on these controllers, what's hard to do on these controllers. So if y'all like the video, let's get it, let's lock in. The PS5 controller. Now listen, I'm gonna be honest with you, I usually roast the hell out of this controller. This might low-key be the best controller for Tekken, low-key. Hence, if you ain't got the money or the bread, this is your best option. I ain't gonna roast you for using it. Me personally, I don't want to use it. I want to keep it for my single player games and my RPGs. You get what I'm saying? You feel me? Since Tekken being a 3D game, I think movement is very important in this game. Doing back dashes, doing Korean back dashes, all that good stuff. But I do think it's really easy to do it with the D-pad here than any other controller out on the market right now. Maybe because I've had a history of growing up on the PS1 playing Tekken with my granddad and all my other friends. But I feel like it ain't too complicated to play on this controller. I feel like Tekken has always been designed for a controller experience in a lot of scenarios. Now, being honest, from my personal experience, if you're trying to do a Doria, Electric Wind God Fist, or anything like that that says Hold Star, this is hard as hell to use. I do not recommend it. The D-pad itself being the way it is kind of just destroys it for me personally. But overall, if this is what you got, go ahead and cook with this. Now, this is a controversial take in a controversial category. And by the way, this video is not sponsored. Okay, y'all know I already have one of these controllers. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. A lot of people in the FGC say this controller sucks. Well, personally, I've only had one hiccup or error with this controller. And if you got insurance, it's whatever, to be honest with you, right? That's just how I feel about it. But this controller is outstanding and amazing in multiple areas. Number one, this controller has multiple D-pads good for Tekken, in my honest opinion. You can find out of 1 or 3 D-pads they give you, which is really good for this game. You got one that you can disconnect the D-pad, you got a plus sign, you got another one. It's so good in that regard. Y'all see, I don't know if it's gonna zoom in, but y'all see that D-pad, bro? This is probably one of the best examples of a D-pad in my honest opinion. I personally love this version of the D-pad they give you with the Victrix Pro BFG. Also, you see, I changed it to a fight commander this time around, so all your buttons can be laid out like a fight stick if this is an option you would want for this controller. It also works on PS5, PS4, and PC, and it can be wired or wireless if you have the dongle, which they give you one as well. So you can game however you want with this controller with way more options than a PS5 controller. I have tried the DualSense Edge, by the way. I don't really care for it. It's just a 0.5 higher in my personal opinion than the normal PS5 controller, but I would just rather invest in this if you really want to, or find close alternatives to this. And also, if you watch my last Tekken video about controller mapping, this is definitely the controller for you. This controller got hella back buttons to where you can map to different things on it, and it's a charm. Some wear and tear can happen to it. That's the thing I've been seeing on Twitter, but personally, I've been using this controller since Street Fighter 6 came out, and it still works enough to where I can play the game like a charm. So this is the Victrix Pro BFG. I'll link it down below. And use code YAYA to get 10% off. So I know this video not sponsored, but I just want to help y'all get right for fighting games. And that's why I sign up for these things, so I can help the community and people who watch my videos get the more bang out of their time anyway. So that's all I want to say. Now we get into the things people want to know about. Which one is my personal preference, and which one do you think is the best for Tekken when it comes to arcade sticks, hitboxes, and leverless? I got one specifically for y'all. This company, I want to get sponsored by them so bad. So if y'all see this, please, come hook your boy, because I want to see this. All jokes aside, my favorite stick, my baby, the one I started out on almost a couple years ago, this is the Qanba Obsidian. Arguably, I know the Qanba Obsidian 2 is out. I think this is probably still one of the craziest, coolest ways to play Tekken on. Hence, literally because of this. So, I've personally found Korean backdashing 10 times easier on this than any other type of version or peripheral for Tekken. Movement in this game with this is amazing. Doing moves like Electric Wind God Fist or Wild Rising is also 10 times easier in my personal opinion on stick. The problem with stick is that it hurts your hands after a while. I've been playing fighting games, and the more I get older, I've noticed that the next thing I talk about will be a good shift for fighting games, and we're gonna talk about it very quick, simple, and easy. I gotta show the baby. This has been my bread and butter for the past year. This is my favorite controller. If I'm not using the Victrix controller or a PS5 controller, I am always using my baby controller. See this? This got the ruby on it, and I think the Cora on the back. It got my baby girl Cammy on it. Y'all see the Cammy? You got my baby girl Cammy on it. Come on, don't sleep. Now, this is probably the most expensive controller, by the way. There are arguably cheaper, better alternatives to buy this. But I like heavier sticks. I like bigger sticks. Pause. Don't. Regardless, I like the weight of this thing. I like that it sits in my lap and it doesn't move. There's ways to make smaller sticks sit in your lap with like sanding paper and things of that, or putting something at the bottom that lets it stop it from moving out of your lap and stuff like that. But this is just the perfect size for me. I love this stick. My only complaint with this stick is that it is hard to do R3 plus L3 functions in this game, since Tekken has a lot of tutorial stuff and resetting and training and stuff like that. It is hard to do that. I think any stick that has those buttons is the best stick in the world, no matter the price. If you have an automatic R3 plus L3 button, that is a blessing. Every arcade stick, Leverless, Hitbox in the future needs to come with those mandatory buttons, just for the sake of training and not having to hit 2 or multiple buttons just to get R3 or L3. Now, the beauty of this stick, since it's a leverless and your hands are elevated a certain way, I don't get that pain I was getting on the arcade sticks, right? I can still use them, but after like 2 to 3 hours of use, I'm Gucci on the arcade stick. I could play this. I've even streamed with like this for 8 to 10 hours before. Like, this is probably one of my favorite things ever to use for fighting games right now. This is like the best. I will say personally, I think it's clickbait when people tell you this. Korean backdashing on Hitbox is like very easy, hard. Like, it's a visual thing now, and hearing it in succession is knowing if you do it right. That's how I learn a lot of things. I personally feel like KBD, movement, and a lot of other things, such as like certain moves, are harder to do on Hitbox once you're learning. It's a huge learning curve compared to every other game on Hitbox that's 2D. That's probably like the hardest thing over here. But having all your buttons come out and hitting people when you do it, it's the most satisfying feeling on the planet. Problem with the Victrix Pro FS right here, this thing is probably $300, $400. So I'm going to show you probably, and finally, the best version of a leverless hitbox that you can buy for less than $100. This is the best leverless small. This was a goat. This is a goat. I'm not going to lie. This is probably my favorite thing right here. They gave me this a month ago, so I want to disclose that, to be honest with y'all. But since I didn't do a whole review for this video, this right here is probably the most best hitbox I've ever played with of all time. So, remember how I was talking about the L3 and R3 buttons? There's an extra button for resetting and doing things in training mode here and there. It also comes with multiple input modes. If you want to access these input modes, you just have to hit one of the corresponding buttons at the beginning. The input modes are the Switch, PS3D input, X input, PS4 input, and keyboard. You got multiple ways to use this baby on your thing right now. There's also a way to program this for PS5. It was a little too complicated, so that's the thing. If you don't want to go through that, I ain't do it, so I ain't gonna recommend doing that. But I will tell you, this will work if you buy a Brooks converter, which is like $30 as well on your PS5. If you're primarily a PC gamer for fighting games, this is gonna be the best thing you can buy. And this thing went for $80. The coolest feature about this arcade stick is that it comes with the gamer finger buttons, so it feels very soft and it sounds like a typewriter when you do combos and stuff like that, right? It feels so satisfying. It feels like you're using a keyboard. It's like you're playing the game, but you also feel like you're working. It feels like you're being productive and having fun at the same time. This is probably one of the best arcade sticks, period. The best thing about this stick too, that people don't really talk about, is that you have 2 USB ports. You have one at the top, you have another one at the side. Therefore, depending on how you have it set up in your house or where you want to have the feed come from, you can be comfortable in using it in whichever angle you want to do it. And if you somehow mess up one, you always got the other side to use. So it's a win-win. This is the most best thing for Tekken as well. And lastly, the best thing about the 6x that's really good, let's say you try to figure see if your buttons are good before you play in the match. When you plug it in, this screen right here will light up. Y'all see that little screen in the corner? Y'all see it? Yeah, it tells you if your buttons are working. So you can see if your buttons are working before the match and if you configure them right on the screen. So you ain't gotta have an input mapper on your stream or overlay. You can just look down and see what button is working and not working. I gotta say, this is probably the best of the best for less than $100. I'm gonna drop a link in the description down below. Go ahead and check this out. I'm not kidding to you. I've been using this for the past 3 months on my PC, primarily for fighting games. My only complaint about this one is that it is kind of small. So if you're a person that's heavy-handed and hit multiple buttons, this may or may not be for you. But even then, with my like Rasengan hands, this still works to a charm for me personally, and it's pretty good. I would want a bigger version of this. Like if somehow somebody can make this, but make a big one like that, bro, I'll be cooking. But yeah, this is the Haute 42 G-Pad 16. This is a beauty. That being said, it's your boy Avataryaaya. I know I've been gone for a couple days, been in and out of moods, life, you know, I've been streaming on Twitch as well, so don't sleep. I have been playing a lot of different games on Twitch recently, but now I'm gonna get back on my content grind. So it's your boy Avataryaaya. You guys are golden, and that is raw. Make sure you subscribe, follow for more videos on controllers, arcade sticks, fighting games, RPGs. We got everything over here. Remember, you guys are golden, and that is raw. Squala, peace, and I'm out.
And I swear I never felt